Stop acting so small. You are the universe in ecstatic motion.
Wow, that's quite a thought, isn't it?
From Jalaluddin Muhammad Rumi, or, well, Rumi as most people know him. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking a closer look at the life and some of the incredibly powerful poetry of this really influential figure. Whether you know Rumi well or this is maybe your first proper introduction, we want to explore some of the wisdom that's captivated people for, gosh, centuries.
Absolutely. And what's fascinating is that Rumi, who lived, let's see, 1207 to 1273, born in Balkh, it's now Afghanistan, but part of the historical Persia then, he wasn't just a poet writing beautiful lines. He was a profound mystic, part of the Sufi tradition within Islam.
Right, Sufism that emphasizes a more direct personal experience of the divine.
Exactly. Through things like poetry, music. It's about that interconnection. So as we look at his life and some key poems, you'll hopefully get a real sense of why his voice still speaks so strongly today across all sorts of cultures and times. Think of this as, well, your shortcut to understanding Rumi's enduring appeal.
Okay, great. Let's start with his life then. That seems like the right place, the foundation. Born in Balkh, you said. His early years sound pretty important.
They really were. His mother came from a noble family. Her father was the emir of Balkh, and his own father was a very highly respected scholar.
A scholar? In what fields?
Deeply into religious studies, but also philology, the study of languages, history, culture, and philosophy too. So Rumi grew up in this incredibly rich intellectual and spiritual environment. You can really see those threads later in his writing.
And I gather they didn't stay put. The family moved around.
That's right. Around 1214, they went to Baghdad first, a huge center for learning back then. Then about 1218, they settled in Konya, which is in modern-day Turkey.
Konya.
And interestingly, when they got to Konya, the local ruler, the Seljuk ruler Aladdin Kikubat, he actually built a madrasa, a religious school specifically for Rumi's father.
Wow, really? Just for him?
Yeah, it really shows the kind of respect his father commanded and, the importance placed on learning at the time.
So Rumi wasn't having a typical childhood, I guess. The outline mentions him being knowledgeable by age 11. That's pretty young.
It is. That early intensive education from his father meant he had this remarkable grasp of complex ideas, religious, philosophical, even as a kid. It definitely set the stage for him becoming a teacher himself later on. He actually took over his father's academy when he was only 24, after his father passed away.
So he was already thinking deeply from a young age.
Seems that way, yes.
Yeah.
Already wrestling with the big questions.
There's a name that always comes up when people talk about Rumi. Shamsi Tabrizi. This meeting sounds like it was a real turning point.
Oh, absolutely. A catalyst, as you say. Meeting Shamsi Tabrizi seems to have completely transformed Rumi. He valued their time together immensely, saw Shams almost as the key that unlocked his own deeper spiritual understanding.
And their separation was painful for him.
Hugely painful. Shams died, or some say disappeared, around 1248, though Rumi lived until 1273. Rumi expressed incredible sorrow over losing that connection. You can feel that intensity, that passion, sometimes that pain, woven right into his poetry. It really shifted everything for him, his life, his creative work.
And it was after meeting Shams, during this sort of intense spiritual period, that he wrote his major work, the Masnavi.
Exactly. The Masnavi is just monumental, one of the most important, most influential long poems ever written in Persian. Its reach is global, even now. And what's interesting is, while it's deeply rooted in Sufi Islam, its themes, love, loss, the search for meaning, they just connect with people everywhere, often is appreciated more for the mystical insights than as, say, strict religious teaching.
It's also fascinating that he mainly wrote in Persian, but not only Persian.
Right. That's a great point. The vast majority is Persian. But he did weave in bits of Turkish, Greek, even Arabic sometimes. It kind of hints at this universal quality in his thinking, even back then. And maybe helps explain why his work travels so well today. Huge followings in Iran, Turkey, and interestingly, the US too.
Okay, so this rich life full of learning, travel, intense relationships, deep spiritual searching, that's the wellspring for the poetry. Let's dive into some examples then, get a real taste. You mentioned poems didn't originally have titles.
That's generally right. Titles were often added later, maybe based on the first line or a central theme. So the titles we use are more like signposts.
Got it. Okay, first one. Unfold your own myth. It starts with these interesting examples like Solomon finding a ring.
Yeah, the opening of Unfold Your Own Myth uses those almost story-like examples, Solomon, the fish, but they aren't the main point. They're like a jumping off point. The real core message is this powerful push towards personal discovery. He's really urging you, the listener, the reader, don't just live off other people's stories or insights. Go find your own. Uncover your own truth.
That really speaks to anyone trying to learn or understand something for themselves, doesn't it?
Definitely. And he seems to acknowledge it might not be easy.
Right. It says the journey might be tiring at first.
Exactly. He's honest about that.
Yeah.
Unfolding your own myths, genuine self-discovery, it can feel like hard work initially. But he offers this assurance. Stick with it. Push through the difficulties, and eventually you'll have a breakthrough. A moment of, real insight that brings this feeling of freedom, a totally new perspective.
I like that. Okay, next up is a much shorter one. I am thine and thou art mine. Feels very intimate.
It does. Very direct. In this poem, the thou is generally understood as God, the divine. It's this beautiful, concise expression of deep spiritual love, a sense of like mutual belonging between the soul and God. Captures that personal, reciprocal connection.
The language feels like love poetry, very passionate.
It does, and that's intentional. Rumi often uses the intensity and devotion of human love as a metaphor, a way to talk about the relationship between a seeker and the divine. The key thing here is that feeling of reciprocity, that it's not a one-way street. The love, the devotion, it's mirrored, it's returned. It gives you this sense of love having multiple dimensions beyond just the human.
Okay, moving to the flame of love. This one seems to value passion, that inner fire, over just words.
That's a good way to put it. The flame of love really stresses how important it is to have a burning heart. To cultivate that intense inner passion, that desire, it suggests that's more vital than, say, clever words or just going through the motions superficially. Rumi basically says, light that fire of love inside you and let it burn away all the extra stuff, the overthinking, the fancy but maybe empty phrases.
So it's about the feeling being real, authentic.
Absolutely. It implicitly contrasts people who just follow rituals mechanically with those whose hearts are genuinely on fire with love. The core idea is that this inner passionate engagement is what truly matters. For you listening, wanting real understanding, it suggests insight comes from that deeper engagement, not just skimming the surface.
Makes sense. Then we have thou and I. This one paints such a vivid picture of closeness, of unity.
It really does. Thou and I describes this incredibly blissful, intimate merging. He sets it in a bower, a beautiful sheltered spot.
Yeah.
The feeling is that it goes beyond two separate people. It's like they melt into one single soul. It's a real celebration of oneness.
And the nature imagery, the garden, birdsong, stars, it feels so joyful.
Exactly. He uses those vibrant sensory details of the natural world to communicate the sheer bliss and harmony of this connection. There's this feeling of timelessness too, like this perfect moment just is. It's a fantastic example of Rumi using relatable, beautiful images to talk about profound spiritual states.
And finally, the guest house. This one feels immediately relatable, such a powerful metaphor for dealing with emotions.
Oh, definitely. The guest house is brilliant. The core idea,
Yeah.
a human being is like a guest house, and every morning there's a new arrival. Joy, depression, meanness, some momentary awareness, they all show up. And Rumi's advice is essentially, welcome them all.
Even the ones we really don't want, the difficult ones.
Yes, that's the key. Even the dark thought, the shame, the malice, as he puts it. Meet them at the door laughing, invite them in. Because the lesson is that every single guest, no matter how unwelcome they seem, has been sent for a reason. Maybe they're clearing you out, as he says, for some new delight.
So accepting that even negative experiences might have a purpose.
Exactly. They might be teaching you something, preparing you for something else. If you're aiming to process things, to learn, this offers such a valuable way to think about accepting the whole range of your inner experience, not just pushing the bad stuff away.
Looking across these 5 poems then, we definitely see some recurring threads, these big ideas. What would you say are the main themes that really define Rumi's wisdom?
Well, love is just central, isn't it?
Yeah.
Divine love, yes, but also the echoes of it in human connection. That runs through almost everything. Then there's the soul's journey, this idea of returning to the source, of growth and transformation, and a huge emphasis on inner experience, on looking within. Plus, the idea of transcending the ego, moving beyond that small self to find a larger unity.
Right, that sense of interconnectedness.
Absolutely. And it's not just abstract philosophy.
No, it feels like it has implications for how we should, live our lives.
It does. While he's exploring these vast spiritual landscapes, Rumi also brings it back to very human virtues: compassion, generosity, tolerance, seeking truth. There are those 7 advices often attributed to him, like, in generosity and helping others, be like the river. In compassion and grace, be like the sun. In concealing others' faults, be like the night. Practical stuff.
So it's wisdom that's both profound and somehow practical.
I think that's a big part of his enduring appeal. He speaks to these deep human longings for meaning, for connection, for growth in language that even centuries later still feels alive and relevant.
Okay, so wrapping up our deep dive today. Rumi's life itself was this incredible journey of learning and spiritual transformation, and that really shaped his timeless poetry. His poems, like the few we've touched on, explore these fundamental parts of being human: love, the soul's path, our inner worlds, and they keep offering insights for self-discovery, for connecting with something beyond ourselves.
Exactly. And that leaves us with a thought for you listening. Rumi invites us in, unfold your own myth to find our own way. How might that apply to your search for knowledge and understanding right now? Are you relying on others' maps or actively drawing your own? And thinking about the guest house, what unexpected guests might be visiting your inner inn today. Instead of turning them away, what might you learn if you welcomed them? Just for a moment. Maybe exploring these ideas has sparked a little flame. A desire to delve even deeper into Rumi's amazing world.